Hey there, I'm super excited to announce the new Pay version 3 upgrade for Jumpstart Pro. This has been in the works for quite some time now, and I've made a ton of improvements to make all of this happen. So the core of this is Pay version 3. In version 2 of Pay, we used to store your payment information on your account or your user model, and that was limiting and unfortunately had some bugs and flaws to it. So we've now migrated that information over to a Pay customer model, and we've introduced a couple new ones like the Pay Merchant, Pay Payment Methods, and Pay Webhooks. So let's talk about those real fast. Pay customers keeps track of a user or account's payment processors. So you might have a customer pay with Stripe, they switch to PayPal and they go back to Stripe. You can now keep track of all of those, and all of the history of that will not get lost. Previously, we would keep track of the current one, and that was it. We'd lose the old one if they switched between them. And then we've also added Pay Merchant support. Does the same thing, we keep track of that, and you can now use Stripe Connect in Pay to do payments on a platform or marketplace style. So you can take transaction fees, or you can actually accept the money yourself and pay out vendors and split up the payments however you need. So it's very flexible. We also added the Pay Payment Method. So now instead of just storing the default card or payment method, we now support anything. So we can have multiple payment methods. So if you're building e-commerce where you have a personal card and a business card, those are separated out nicely, and the user could choose between them during checkout if you want to do that. And we also support EPS, Ideal, FPX, Bank Contact, and all the other payment methods that Braintree and Stripe support. Venmo, PayPal, you name it. All of those are now supported, and we can easily add more. And we're also adding that Pay Webhooks model, which I mentioned, and that is because when you're doing a big Black Friday sale or something, Stripe may be slamming you with webhooks, and we can take those, save them to the database, then process them with a background job, and that will happen very, very quickly, and we can handle a bigger load. And that's important for the design, because that's exactly the same process that Action Mailbox uses when inbound email webhooks are coming in. Saves them to the database, and then it processes them with a background job. We're doing the exact same approach, so if it works for those, then it should work well for this as well, and be familiar for you too. So specifically in Jumpstart Pro, we've made some changes to the checkout page. You still need to do a little bit of styling with this, but we will keep track of whether or not the user is currently subscribed to a subscription and show the exact same payment processor here. So if you've got an active PayPal subscription, you're gonna see PayPal checkout here. If you don't have any active subscriptions, we'll show all the options. So Stripe, maybe PayPal underneath as an alternative, and so on. We've also gone through and added currencies to your charges and your plans. So you can, you'll be able to set this in euros and say it's 19 euros a month. We'll be able to change all of that and keep track of it correctly and display that. There's still some work to be done on that, but it is a nice improvement that we've been working on as well. So we can go through and check out here. And our subscription update here has been really, really useful as well. So in the billing section, we previously only had a single subscription that was allowed. But one of the updates that we've made to this is now you can have multiple subscriptions per account in Jumpstart. So for example, when I sell a Jumpstart license, each license has its own subscription, and I can show all of those, and you can cancel or change individual ones. And that required some re-architecting of the billing section in Jumpstart. So this will look a little bit different. We also display just the payment method for your default customer. So if you're paying with PayPal or Stripe, we display that as your payment method. We show you how to update that. But if you happen to have a subscription on Stripe and a subscription on PayPal, you'll need to go and tweak the payment method section to show those options. But right now we just show you the default. So this all works just like you expected it to in the past, but we've also implemented a cancel route, a pause and resume route. So you have your own pages to go and manage individual subscriptions here as well. So this is a nice upgrade to that. You can see all of this around. We've also gone and tweaked some of the UI, made it more consistent. I've added some other cool features, like we've upgraded from the Devise Masquerade gem to Pretender, another wonderful Andrew Kane gem. That one allows us to go and log in as another user, and we still retain access to what you have permissions for. So we can actually go view the app as that user, but still access the admin, which was one of the things we couldn't do with Devise Masquerade. So that's super nice. We've also added Pundit. So we have example policies for Pundit in here that you can add to your scaffolds or just uncomment the lines in your scaffolds. You'll have authorization set up, and it actually uses your account user. So it keeps track of which user you're or which user and which account you're on and the role for that, so you can easily run your policies against the correct account user. Other upgrades that we've done are little fixes here and there. If you previously uploaded an SVG for your avatar, it would crash or basically just show a broken image. We've now validated that so that it will make sure that you are using a resizable image so that active storage doesn't blow up. And yeah, there's been a ton of other little upgrades, and there will be more, but this has been a big major change. So with all of that said, I want to walk you through the 2 migrations that you need to pay attention to when you're upgrading. This one actually is not that important. It's the one that adds all of the new fields to the plans, the pay customers model, the pay merchants, the pay payment methods, the pay webhooks, and it adds application fees so you can do marketplace transactions with Stripe Connect. And it will keep track of those amounts and everything. As we work to build in pay marketplace functionality. It's already supported fully in Stripe Connect for pay, but we just haven't added the Stripe Connect into Jumpstart Pro quite yet, but that's almost here. And the important migration that I want you to pay attention to is this one. So the upgrade to pay version 3 is where the data is actually moved from the account models, and the charges and subscriptions are updated as well. So we take each of your accounts, we go through them, and we say, hey, does it have a payment processor? Has someone paid before? If they are on a Jumpstart fake payment processor, we move them to the official fake processor in pay. That fake processor is great for testing, but it's also super useful for actually doing free subscriptions to admin users or friends of yours. You can use that. And we go and create all of the pay customers for each account. And then we go through and check for anybody who's on a generic trial. We've moved that into a feature on the fake processor. So we go and create those subscriptions. And basically we just create a subscription on the fake processor so they don't need a card. But we also say, hey, the trial and end dates are exactly the same. So when your trial expires, you'll be able to ask them to pay. Then we also go and update the charges. One of the things that we previously were doing, which wasn't great, was storing PayPal information in the card fields. And so now we've got a JSON column that stores all of the payment method details for bank transfers, for credit cards, for PayPal, for Venmo, for Ideal, Bank Contact, FPX, EPS, Afterpay, ClearPay. All of those options that are supported by Stripe or Braintree are available here, and Paddle. And so those fields have been migrated so we can keep that data. And same with the pay subscriptions, we update those and the charges to be associated with the new pay customers. So that allows us to separate the charges and subscriptions out for Stripe, for Braintree, for Paddle, and for the fake processor, nice and organized. And the last, but probably most important piece is the removal of the old columns that we don't need anymore. This is something you'll probably want to either comment out or remove from this migration so that you can test it in development, make sure any subscriptions, charges, and any customers are migrated to the new tables safely. I've already run all this in production for jumpstartrails.com, so I know it works, But if you ever made any changes to it, or maybe you have some weird data in there, you can go and run this, safely migrate without losing any information, and then once you've confirmed that in development, deploy it to production, and you can do a secondary deployment with the removal of these columns in order to make sure that all of that was handled safely. So that's important. I can't really give you a dual deployment thing with a Git repo, unfortunately, so pay attention to this. And then the other thing that I want to mention is that you'll need to, in production, run Rails pay, payment methods, sync default, and this is going to go through every customer in your database and go and sync their payment methods from Stripe, Braintree, Paddle, wherever, and make sure that we have the payment method IDs for those and all of their other details like the card brand, the expiration, last four, and so on. So this is important because we weren't even saving that ID in the past, and we need to go and populate the payment methods table with the IDs along with the other information. So this is going to grab the latest from the API, and it can run slowly, so that's why we have it as a rake task instead of actually running in the migration. All of the migration stuff is just moving stuff from one table to another. You may need to have a little bit of maintenance time for this because it's going to go through and probably run callbacks on some of that when it's creating these customers and updating the charges and subscriptions. So that may take a second if you have thousands of customers, and you'll probably want to go through and do a little bit of maintenance window for that. But of course, feel free to change any of this that you want. It is your application, and so you know it best. And this is just what is the base Jumpstart Pro migration example for you. So that's about it. Don't forget to run this rake task in production once you've deployed all of the changes, so that users' payment methods don't seem to go missing all of a sudden. And yeah, that is about it for the changes. It's pretty straightforward. There's just a lot going on behind the scenes that I wanted to make sure you were aware of so the migration goes smoothly for you, because it is fascinating to build changes like this for an app like Jumpstart Pro that has probably been used thousands of times, and applying changes and migrations to thousands of apps all at once is a pretty tricky job. So I'm new to this a little bit. I'm not like the Rails core team that is used to making upgrades like that, but if you run into any issues, let me know in the GitHub issues, or email me. I'm more than happy to help figure it out and get you off and running. So that's it. There's a lot more coming, and I'm really excited to see what we release in the future. So until then, I will talk to you guys later. Peace.